And there we go. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Artist Talks this morning by Paul Cullen. This is level 6 students talking to you about their practice. So, Paul, thank you very much for being here. It's fantastic. I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. I've heard Paul speak before, actually, and it's really, really engaging. So go for it, Paul. Thanks very much.
So, hello, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. My name is Paul Cullen, level 6 student in fine art. Just a couple of photos there. I'm going to talk a little bit about what kind of got me into coming and doing fine art. And to do that, I just want to talk a little bit about when I left school and got a job in a camera shop and started to do video and photography in the kind of late 80s, early 90s. That gives you an idea that I'm not 21 as I keep. So yeah, just a couple of, so I was a trainer for 20 years, training people within contact centres with IT and customer service and so on. And there was a couple of phrases that when I've done education in learning and development, so there's a couple of phrases I've picked up over the years that have really helped me to, I won't say succeed, but well as I can, basically. So the Benjamin Franklin, one American philosopher, said, by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. And that one I really like. And then Jun Kuang is a Chinese philosopher. This one I picked up when I was doing learning and development diploma, which was tell me and I forget, show me and I may remember, involve me and I'll understand. And I think as a trader, one of the things you really need to do is engage people and get them to kind of really understand, because a lot of people, half the people I was training probably weren't really interested. So I think by people, it applies to the degree as well, because I think going into workshops and physically doing things rather than just watching things on YouTube is what really makes things stick in your mind. Anyway, moving on from that. So 1988 was quite a big year for me. I was doing music. My music was mainly what I did at school and what I did my A-level in music and drama. And I got to the highest level as playing the trumpet, and I played in several orchestras and brass bands. And I did an audition and an interview in 1988, right at the beginning of 1988. To come to Salford Uni to do a BA honours in band musicianship. However, before I was due to start, I got contacted by somebody from Turkey. Ankara University in Turkey was gathering people from across Europe who played specific instruments and wanted them to spend a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, with a famous conductor. It was all expenses paid. But by doing it, it would mean I'd have to defer my uni for a year. So I did it, and it was an amazing experience. However, when I came back, I needed to make some money. And because I was really into SLR cameras and photography, and I applied with a handwritten CV because there was no computers or printers in those days. There probably was printers, but we didn't have access to one. So it was handwritten CV, and I got the job. I used couple of photos there on the right hand side of one of me very sneakily, I don't know why I did this, taking photographs with a remote control, trying out the technology, and then that's the shop window, which I used to love to be in. And there's a couple of photos there that I found that I took. These are on film, not digital. This was before digital, of Market Street on the right hand side there in 1990. Which has not changed a massive amount, but then on the left-hand side, that is the top end of Market Street. I think it's High Street, which is before the 1996 IRA bomb went off. Therefore, the Arndale looked different. You've got Cannon Street, which was a street that went under the Arndale Centre, that isn't there anymore. And you can see the before privatisation of the buses, you've got the orange GM buses, Greater Manchester buses, and that the tram there was the first couple of weeks of it actually when it was built. And I think it's really just fascinating to look back in history at, you know, how things looked and compare them to today. So working at the camera shop, I did a course with Canon for a couple of days where they taught me how to animate and to add music. So there's a little, I'll skip it a little bit, but it's just me messing around and doing video back in, this is about 1990 as well. And that is, yeah, another video that's just me doing walks as I still do today. And moving on from that, I just wanted to mention my uncle because my uncle inspired me to paint. These are his paintings on the right hand side. Now, my uncle on my mum's side, he moved to Norway in 1980. In those days, you wrote to people, you had a pen pal. I had one who was in Ohio in America, and I kept somebody from Turkey, so I was writing to them as well. And he moved to marry this lady in Norway, and I never got to visit him. But he did come to the camera shop in 1991. I remember specifically him coming and buying this really. I spent about 2 or 3 hours with him. I was getting told off for spending so much time with him, but he spent a fortune on this really expensive Canon video camera. But he had a tough time because he basically trained his job to some other younger Norwegian students who then took his job from him, which he, to some degree you couldn't understand. They wanted to keep it local, but and he'd split from the woman he'd married, which meant that he had she worked for the benefit services. She stopped him while he was trying to find other work, getting benefits, and he ended up, I didn't find this out until a few years after he died, that he had to live on a little boat. He couldn't moor it at Oslo harbour because you had to pay for that, and he couldn't afford that, so he had to moor it off an island, and he used to have to go out and smash holes in the ice in the sea, if you like, to get fish. And I just felt so awful that he went through that. I asked my dad why didn't he come back, and he said it was just pride. You know, he didn't want to admit that he'd failed. But he did an exhibition in his hometown in Norway. He did finally get an apartment. A friend found him and brought him got him this apartment, and he did an exhibition. And it's about half a day's journey from where I live in Sweden to drive there. So I'm planning on doing that in the summer. Or maybe after graduation, maybe we'll see. And I've asked the Whitaker if they want to do a piece on it, so they may do that. But the whole point of this is that he inspired me to paint. I have those paintings at home and hoping to exhibit them at some point. Moving on very quickly, I'm 10 minutes nearly. I got a job in 2000. I moved on from the camera shop. I didn't go back to do my degree, and it's something I've always regretted. I always think to myself, why didn't I do that? And kind of one of the reasons I'm doing this now. But I worked as a coach and then a trainer for O2, and then made redundant in 2009. And then 2010, I got a job at Teleperformance working as a trainer again. Now, I met my wife in Sweden in 2007, and 2017 she graduated as a student in music, just as this building, this new Adelphi building was built. She did her last year in this as it was a brand new building, and I spent a lot of time in the studio with her, helping her with playing the guitar, the trumpet and the keyboard, and even a little bit singing. That helped her. But the reason I'm mentioning this is that we moved to Sweden in 2018. But before I moved, I got the chance to cycle to, I nearly said Sweden then, to Paris for charity. And I raised over £1,600. And I created about 50 different London, Paris themed paintings and sold them for between £10 and £30. And I did a couple of commissions as well. The amount of people that said you should do this for a living, and at first I'm like, oh, don't be silly, these are rubbish, these are just, you know, just to make, you know, but that many people said it, I started to think about it. You can see there bottom left, I actually made it to Paris on a bike. the middle picture is me when I came back and the kind of welcome I got for having raised so much money. And then the right hand side there is when I on my last day at my job before I then moved to Sweden. So moved to Sweden, met my wife in 2007. I'm not going to go into that because we'll be here forever. If you want to know, then come and speak to me privately. We married in Sweden in 2009. Moved to Sweden in 2018. She moved in 2017 to get a job, and I carried on working to kind of, you know. But I applied for photography. She inspired me. You can see her there graduating in 2017. And she inspired me to and kind of encouraged me to apply. So I applied for Cumbria first, who interviewed me and said I didn't need to do foundation. I did like an essay for them, and they said you can go straight. And it was supposed to be photography because that's what I decided to do. But I changed it at the last minute to Salford because of the locality to my parents and my family. And I literally I was over here for 2 days in September 2019, and I contacted my wife and said, I can't do it. I can't be away for that long. So I deferred it for a year. 2020 was COVID, so I deferred it for another year. 2021, I think I actually changed it to fine art. And asked, is it, you know, because it made more sense to do fine art because I can do photography and video and so on within that. And then I kind of, a couple of days in 2021 and said to my wife, I can't be away from you for that long. But in that last year, she then said, well, you need to think about why you're doing this and just take it a day at a time. And here we are, two and a bit years in, and we've made it work so far. So the bridge I've just mentioned there and the picture of it there, because I've been over it so many times traveling. I must travel 4 to 5 times a year between Copenhagen, which is the closest airport, and I just go over that bridge so many times. I'm actually really sick of it now, but so that's moved us on to why I started doing fine art. And the we was told, as everybody knows, is in level 4, but obviously you've been in level 4. Just do everything, try everything, experience everything, and so I did that. I kind of embraced that, and I went out, you know, doing photography in the streets, doing photography of the street art, and I created my own little installation with a video, and you know, it's all learning at this stage. I'm just, you know, practicing, and I built a tree, as Nisha, Lucy, and Amy will very well remember. And I did a video of the environment, which I put in there. Again, all experimentation. On the right side, you see a little box that you stuck your head in, and I put a load of fresh leaves in it, and a video of a squirrel, and you know, all environment friendly. But by the time it came to submission, you put your head in, it smelled like something had died because it had all rotted. So the little tip for anybody thinking of doing that. Here is a video that we did. We had an artist called Aideen Berry came and showed us how to do. I don't know if you can hear the music there, but kind of taught us how to use stop motion and how to use video mapping. And it was probably one of the most inspirational things I've ever done. But we had Mia in there just very quickly. And it's just experimentation, just seeing what works and what doesn't work. I don't know if you remember that, Freya. But yeah, I did another video then for the fine at the end of year 4, which I'm not going to show a massive amount. I'm just going to jump ahead there, just because. Oh, so I have to jump ahead. And it's kind of linked to the environment and linked to the power that these. It's only a few seconds of this, just to kind of give you an indication of what I was doing. Anyway, moving forward. I'm sorry, I love that bit with the squirrel. So that was kind of like a video that I did at the end of level 4, experimentation from the digital skills sessions and so on. At the end of level 4, I was doing still doing paintings. I was doing photography, black and white and darkroom. I was a model for a day, as I'm sure remembers, when one of the models couldn't make it. So I posed, thankfully, with my clothes on, and that was one example. Bottom left there, you've got Charlie and Freya there and one of our sessions. Did some street photography, you can see there. I like this aspect of having colour within black and white because it kind of highlights, well, this is what I'm focusing on. And I was like focusing on what makes things typically British. And to me, it's that letterbox. Went to see the Turner exhibition. And you can see that painting there. It's quite a big, large painting actually, was inspired by Turner, and then that was just like a random painting I did. And just before I got to level 5, the feedback that I got was I'm basically throwing myself into everything, but I need to start to condense it and to start to focus more on kind of certain things and not do just everything because you're spreading yourself too thinly. And so I kind of took that to heart. Level 5, we got to hear about the site projects and the gallery group and the working with people. I wanted to do all of those things, but naturally I chose site project because I do a lot of walks, I do a lot of cycling and running. And so I immediately got on a train to Sorby Bridge in West Yorkshire, which is the start of the Rochdale Canal. I did do some research. I bought a book called The Pennine Pioneers, which talks about how before the Rochdale Canal, all the kind of textiles were transported, and it was treacherous trying to get over Blackstone Edge through. So I did a lot of research on the history, the mythology, and the community. And what I did is I recorded the entire journey on a GoPro. So the whole thing is on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch it, I'll send you links at the end. The whole thing is there with a lot of other videos that I've done as well, if anybody wants to see that. And what I liked about this particular, this photo went up, this photograph went up on display in the Whitaker as well. And the thing I like about it is you see the little hot marks from the water that's dripped off the ceiling over there. It just kind of gives you a sense of age and history. But you've also got community there because people use this for, running through, cycling through, walking the dogs and so on. But also it was the eeriness because it was a long tunnel. It was very eerie. I was interested in the topography. I use a drone occasionally, which I'll talk to you very quickly about in a bit. And the drone, I found this photograph of the same where the tunnel is from 1926 from a site called Britain from Above. And you can see this is exactly the same photograph in 2024. And it's interesting to see, there's buildings, there's an industrial estate built there, but predominantly what you see is a lot of trees and, kind of the greenery taking over as well, which I think is, I just find that really interesting. I worked with the Salford Library Archives, went to do a visit for the site project. So although I was doing my own site project and did the walk and videos and photography, I was recording audio as well. I also thought I would try. I got drawn to this letter from the second Duke of Bridgewater from 1740. I read through all of the letters until they turned into French. And this particular letter drew me. It's about him being at the White Cliffs of Dover, and he's moaning about having to, he's all ugly under the White Cliffs of Dover, and then just want to get on the ship, and so he gets on the ship, and then he's like, well, I just want to get off the ship now. And it's a bit, so what I did was a huge mural, which was paper, and it was about 5 foot by 3 foot, something like that, which I've got here in the studio. And I just started to draw, and it was more to practice drawing than anything. As you can see from the top left, it starts to improve. So the practice does make perfect. Maybe not perfect, but there's definitely an improvement, and it's one of my favourite pieces actually. So working well archives is really interesting. I do like taking photographs of little communities. So on the left hand side is a bunch of clay mice and cardboard that I made a little house for near the Whitaker, because it was like a little space. In fact, it's still there. I meant to take it down in April last year, and then I completely forgot. So it's still there probably. I'm going to the Whitaker tomorrow, so I might see if it's still there. And the other one was just on program day. We went for a walkabout, and I just took these pictures, and that could be like in Turkey somewhere, Cappadocia or something, you know. I'm not going to go into the drone at the moment, but if anybody's interested in using a drone, there's a lot of regulations. You need a license. You have to pay for the license. So if anybody's interested, I can go through that with you privately. I won't go into it now because of time. I did the Whitaker residency from January to April. And we got to see the attic. We got to see loads and loads of paintings and all weird, items. She also showed us the archives. Because I was doing the archives, I didn't think to do anything with the archives there at that time. This was my wall in Christmas last year. There's lots of paintings, photography. I tried like some mock rod and plaster landscape, which didn't really work, but it was good practice. I met this little building which been knocked down near Littleborough. I found fascinating that's just like, it's so ugly, but it's also quite interesting, you know. And I looked it up on Google Maps to see what it looked like before, and it was like an old mill and so on. So I tried to recreate it with clay, and my feedback was you're still trying to do too much, and I needed to narrow it down. So once I came back, some of the stones there are from around the Whitaker, and the two that are in frames went on exhibition, and that's the exhibition. I exhibited with another guy called Peter Barlas, who did these really lifelike pencil drawings, as you can see. And so you can see them, they were on exhibition over the summer. They've only just come down, actually. I also did something for the Davids in March at the Whitaker, which was another exhibition. So we actually got to do two exhibitions, which was really good. My mural is there in the middle. Again, me just practicing the drawing. I won't play that because I did a collaboration with Lucy. She was doing Auto Hall, and she was side project was Auto Hall, and she was doing stuff to do with the Lady in White, which was quite eerie. And I kind of noticed when I was in the tunnel. I'll just play this while I'm talking. But it was very eerie under this tunnel. And so I said to her, send me some sounds from it, and I'll use Logic Pro, which is an Apple music program, to kind of create a bit of reverb and kind of make it. I also I walked around the Whitaker for 10 minutes, and I recorded the audio, because when you go around a gallery, you're only looking at the visual. So I thought, what's it like to think about the audio side of things? So you can't hear the audio now, but the audio alone is on my YouTube channel. But then a bit later, I then created a video. So I asked her to send me then some videos of her walking and Auto Hall, which you can see on there, and created a video to it. So I think we were talking about collaboration last week. There's always things you could just think about what other people are doing and the themes and so on, and how they can complement what you're doing. That's Logic Pro. If anyone who wants to know how to use Logic Pro, the basics, come and see me, and I'm happy to go through it with you. It's very simple to make something that's an everyday sound totally different and really fit in with what you're doing. So give me a shout. So that moves us on. The feedback on level 5 was that it was going in the right direction. I'd narrowed things down, and I was starting to focus more on specific things. So we started to go in the right direction. So the level 6 projects I've gone back to the Salford Library Archives. I spoke to Alex, who's the person that's in charge of the archives there. So found this book on discourse concerning death. Now, I've not read through it yet. I've had to video several of the pages, which I asked permission for, and she said, I'm not going to put them on social media or anything. So just so that I can read, because I'm not allowed to take it out. So I'm looking forward to working with that in some way. I spent the summer 4 or 5 months videoing and creating a VR 360. You see my 360 camera there. To create a VR video for the Omnipotence of Dream for David, that David's doing next week. And it's the hardest thing I've ever done, because when you're trying to record, if you're trying to do little, tricks, if you like, which you need to for surrealism, there's nowhere to hide with the 360 camera. So trying to find a solution to that was interesting. But that you can go and see from next week. And there's actually a little clip from it there, actually. I won't play it for too long because it's we're on 27 minutes nearly now. And I also look to, it's lagging too much, that. Look to answer, kind of link it to kind of mental health, autism and Alzheimer's, both of which have people affected with. I've gone back to the Whitaker. I've kept in contact with Gina, who did the Whitaker residency. I'm nearly finished, by the way. Sorry, mouth's dry. And I've gone back the past 2 weeks, and going again tomorrow. And May's spending a little bit more time. And I asked her about the archives. This is what she said, but I'm only going to read what's in yellow. She said, by preserving documents, you automatically put value on them, but in actuality, an archive is always incomplete, sometimes not looked at in much detail or collected for a specific, perhaps political or social reason. So there is a contrast in how we perceive the archives as authoritative, and that they are actually created by institutions, individuals, and we can question why these items have been collected in. And this is where I think artists can come in, highlighting underrepresented information, but also looking more broadly at archives in general. And it's a great route to go down. So especially if you're struggling to what am I going to do, create art? We all go through that. What am I going to create art on? That's a really good route to go down. If you get a chance to go to the Salford Library Archives or to the Whitaker, I've spoken to Gina for when everybody's coming, when they'll do a trip in the next month or so, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, but she's going to talk a little bit about the archives then, she said. So very quickly, just before I finish, psychogeography, a term I came across in one of my tutorials at the beginning of level 5. It was termed by a guy called Guy Debord, which I always thought was Guy, but obviously not. The definition is the study of the influence of geographical environment on the mind or on behavior. The geographical environment of a particular location, typically a city, considered with regards to its influence on the mind or on behavior. There's a really good video. There's a book, which is that one there on the left, called Society of the Spectacle, that he wrote. There's lots of other really good books on psychogeography. But if you just think about when you walk through an area, some areas give you kind of a negative feeling and you don't like walking through them. Other areas make you feel great, and it's kind of looking at, though, how that makes you kind of feel. Psychogeography is something I'm kind of focusing on now, and I'm looking at the comparisons between Sweden and the UK. So there's the Skåneleden in Sweden. So if we look here, this. I don't know if you can see my mouse pointer. This is where I am, or we are. This is where I live. You see my wife's face there. So this is the southern part, and all the way 1,600 kilometers around is this trail. So I've walked 3 of the walks so far. I've uploaded the first walk up onto YouTube already, and the walks I put on YouTube mainly for me to go back over. I do them in 360 so I can see what I've missed and see if there's any difference, and do I need to go back. Some of the photography I've done. And these are quite interesting because in all of these, accidentally, you have the bridge that goes across from Sweden to Denmark. It's actually this one as well. Just some more of the photography that I've done from the walks. That's that same photo. That's one of towards Lund, where I live. And there you've got the bridge, and just kind of, yeah, Malmö. This is the Pennine Way, which I'm focusing on over here. I did my first walk from Hebden Bridge and started to walk. My brother does this twice a year. It's 500 kilometres between Edale in near Glossop and the Peak District, all the way up to Scotland in 5 days, and he does it twice a year. So it's got quite, you know, an interest for me. And this is just some of the photographs from the walk. I've not really had a chance to really analyse yet. And just to finish off, what I'm doing now, obviously I'm doing research, especially for the dissertation, which is either going to be on the archives or psychogeography. I'm trying to work out the best thing to do. I've got to edit and upload the videos. The audio is very important as well, possibly more important, both photography and potentially VR. I'll decide. My VR headset is loaned out for the Omnipresence of Dreams until February, so we'll see. And this is my Instagram. It's the same handle, if you want to call it that, on Instagram, and I've got lots of videos of the Rochdale Canal walk, the thing I did with Lucy, drone shots from over where I live, the Malmö walk, and so on and so forth. That's pretty much it, I think. I probably talked for way too long there. 13 minutes, apologies.
Don't worry, that was great. Thank you, Paul. Wow. Right, that was terrific. Thank you so much. It was like a little vestibule into your brain.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably not a good thing.
No, I think what was nice about that is we can understand where these ideas have started to come from. If you've got any questions for Paul, please will you put them into the chat now? I've written a few things down. The Whitaker, yes. We are going to the Whitaker. We're taking level 5 on the 24th, I think, of October for their Art in Context module, and Jill's arranged that kindly. So all of level 5 are going up to the Whitaker then, or most of level 5. But one of the things that comes out of this for me is the sheer amount of engagement with thoughts and ideas and opportunity and processes and projects. You really have wrung every single drop out of your art education, haven't you? And it's paying dividends. The things that you are doing are really beautifully layered and underpinned by understanding and creative. And you've engaged an awful lot in that creative play and left things in the back, like in your first year, which seems like 2 seconds ago, you were making those trees, and you can see, forgive the pun, but the branches of those trees in what you're doing now, but in a kind of tangential way. And it's just, yeah. And I think when you talk about your life in that linear fashion, in that consecutive fashion, right from your childhood and where all your influences come from, that's how our practice works. We are a culmination of the sum of our parts, and that illustrates it really beautifully. I'll just have a look if we've got any questions. Miles wants a drone license. There you go. Would you believe me if I said I had one? It's quite a simple process, isn't it? It's just a bit of a faff and you have to pay. A great presentation, Paul Georgia says. I especially love the photos of Manchester's from the 90s. Me too. I love a bit of stop motion. Haven't given it a go though myself. Do it. Go and see Steve and get some stop motion done. It's a lovely way of condensing an idea into something really engaging. Sophie says that's great. Lucy says brill, Paul. And Kathy says awesome to listen to. Fee says your work is incredible. It was very interesting to hear about your life and how it influenced your work. I agree, as well as your other influences. Your uncle's paintings are also very beautiful. Yeah, that was a lovely story. Lloyd didn't know Manchester had orange buses. That's because you're not as old as myself, and if he doesn't mind me saying, Paul.
No, not at all. I've kind of given it away with the 1988 working at a camera shop, really, haven't I?
Yeah. Any more questions? Any comments on Paul's practice? Just give it a second.
They can always come and grab
Paul
me in the
is
studio.
always in the studio. If he's not in the studio, he's out making the world his studio. So go and talk to him. I thought that was really insightful, Paul. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It was
I'll stop
terrific.
sharing that, Ashton.
Yeah, I'm going to see if, thank you, Paul. I'm going to move on because I don't want to keep everybody too long. Oh, Sophie says, where's your studio? It is just around the corner from yours, Sophie. The one, if you were in the seminar space facing the screen, it's just the one against the windows on the right-hand side. That's right, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah, right next to the seminar space.
Yeah. So Freya said, I really enjoyed this. Thanks for the talk, Paul. And Ruth says, well done, Paul, and thank you. Gracie says, how did you know what practice to choose? Because I'm similar and cannot decide. I think you mean hop between lots of different things.
I think ultimately, you'll find that certain things become prominent, certain things matter more to you. I love painting, absolutely do it, and I've even got one at the side of me that I'm doing, but I'm doing that more as a sideline to keep my hand in it. The audio kind of just came apparent from actually, you know, it's talking to people, it's talking to the technicians. The audio came from, I did Darkroom with Craig Tattersall, who's on the print room and level 4. And in talking to him, I was telling him about doing the Rochdale Canal and about how the audio's like really important, and he's really into his audio. Mm-hmm. So he recommended a particular device to get. So it's ultimately, it's just that you just keep doing what you're doing, and just if anything, just ask other people, you know, what do you think stands out more to you, and think about what kind of matters more to you, and it'll just come to you, I think.
That's really good advice.
Tutorials.
Great. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I agree. Lots of students that we produce and the staff team have quite diverse practices, and you might end up with 2 or 3 mediums that you consistently refer to. But actually, the way the contemporary art world sits at the moment is that we use the right medium for the message. So you might find that you have a portfolio of mediums that you refer to depending upon the work that you're doing, and you might use textiles for one thing and filmmaking for another, and these things can sit hand in hand. So you don't need to choose in some ways, and like Paul says, things get left along the wayside, and yeah, he still likes painting, but actually it's not his primary practice any longer. So trust the process, Gracie, and yeah, you have to work through it. You're right at the beginning. We don't expect you to decide. Things become clearer as you go through. Gracie says, thanks very much. Thank you so much, Paul. And Sergia says, thanks, you inspire me.